All right, hi, this is my high school wrestling coach, Dan Moskowitz, and so I'm interviewing him for my project. So can you just tell me a little bit about how you got into wrestling?
Well, I went to Columbia High School in Maplewood, New Jersey, and my brother, I have a twin brother, and my brother came home and said he was going out for the wrestling team, or actually before the wrestling season started, when we were in high school, he went to intramurals, and he said, I'm going out for the wrestling team, I'm going to go to intramurals, and he suggested I come, so I went and checked it out, and I wanted to let him do something I wasn't going to do, especially when we fought all the time. If he learned something that I didn't know, he might beat me.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started, mostly just as a result of his influence, and wrestled all through high school.
What about college?
Wrestled in college. When I remember when I was looking at colleges and trying to decide where I'd go to school, I was pretty adamant about going to a school that had a wrestling program because I wanted to wrestle in college. I had a few college coaches come and talk to me, but I really wasn't that interested in those particular schools. And it's hard for me to remember why I picked American University. I went to American University and wrestled 4 years at American University, and that was in 1972. And there's a couple things I discovered about my wrestling career that I didn't realize at the time. In 1972, I joined the wrestling team. I was a 134 pounder, and they had a returning varsity 134 pounder who was a junior. I was a freshman, and we got through the early part of the season, and it was time to wrestle off, and I wrestled him off, and I think I surprised a lot of people, and I think I surprised myself, but I beat him. I still remember his name. His name was Patty Bates, and I didn't realize it at the time, but about a week and a half later, I took the mat and wrestled for American University against Lafayette College, and I was the first freshman in the history of American University to ever wrestle a varsity match. And I didn't know that, I didn't realize that until a few years later, and I put two and two together. I watched the movie We Are Marshall. Mm-hmm. And in 1971, that plane crashed, and Marshall University went to the NCAA and petitioned them to allow freshmen, most people know the story, allowed them to play freshmen because their whole football team was killed in a plane crash. Mm-hmm. So next year they had to recruit a team, and the only way they could recruit a team is if they were able to promise those players that they would be able to play varsity. So they had to petition the NCAA to let freshmen play football, start, because up until that time, freshmen were never allowed to compete on varsity. You had to be a sophomore. Your first year you couldn't compete. And so they made an exemption for Marshall that year, and then the following year, the NCAA decided to allow all freshmen access to varsity sports, and that just happened to be my freshman year. So when I made the team, I became the first freshman ever wrestle varsity. I wrestled varsity for 4 years. I never made it to nationals. Seemed to be a great choke artist. My senior year, I actually cut. I'd been wrestling 50 and 58 for most of my career, and decided I wanted to cut to 142 for my senior year, and cut it. My coach couldn't believe I made it. I almost couldn't believe I made it, and then had an absolutely horrible qualifying tournament. In fact, lost to a guy that I should have easily beaten to not qualify for the nationals. So I learned some things about cutting weight, and I learned some things about properly preparing yourself mentally for competition. After I graduated from American University in 1976, I got an opportunity to join the national team and travel with them for a couple of years. And went overseas, wrestled in Czechoslovakia against the Czech national team. We wrestled the Polish national team, we wrestled the Russian national team. Made some trips to Canada, wrestled in a number of national tournaments over the course of my career. I had a good career. Never placed in nationals. Came close. I got knocked out my last year wrestling with the national team. I actually lost in the round that would have placed me. But developed a lot, learned a lot. Had great teachers. My coaches were John Peterson, who was an Olympic gold medalist. My workout partner was Ree Lanford, who was a member of the '76 Olympic team. So I learned a lot. I learned the importance of the technical side of the sport, about the details. I remember my college coach said this once, and I've always remembered. He said, "It's the details that make things work. You have to pay attention to the details." And so I became a real detail-oriented person as I kind of developed my wrestling.
Was that coach, who did you say that was again?
John Peterson.
Okay. And was he one of your coaching influences? What made you want to become a coach?
Well, I don't know whether I'd say those guys. If anybody really influenced me to want to be a coach, I'd say it was my college coach. Bob Karsh had wrestled at the University of Maryland, was the coach at American University. He's still there. He's not the coach there anymore, but an absolutely super guy that really knew the value of building relationships with your athletes. Now, he wasn't a friend. I never felt like he was a friend. He always felt more like a father figure, even though, in retrospect, he's not that much older than me. I mean, he was in his late 20s, maybe very early 30s when I was, in college, so maybe 10 years. But he just, we really believed he cared about us. We really believed he cared about us as people. He worked us hard, and he demanded a lot. But and one thing I've learned, I've been involved in coaching now for over 30 years. But one thing I've learned is that different kind of kids require different kind of individuals, because it's not always kids, require different coaching styles and different kind of approaches as a coach. And I will say that Bob Karsh was perfect for me, because I needed a coach who, I sincerely believed cared about me, and I think he sincerely did. We still communicate to this day, and it's always a good time when we get together. But I would say he influenced me more in terms of what I thought about what it meant to be a coach in John Peterson. John Peterson is an Olympic gold medalist. He's a great guy. I'm going to see him in 3 or 4 days when I go to the NCAA tournament. I just got an email from his wife this morning, as a matter of fact. But John, as you might expect an Olympic gold medalist to be, is a type A personality. Just, he thinks only about the job and the work and this and that. And while he's a wonderful guy and I love him to death, he wasn't my favorite coach.
Okay.
But I also understand there are some people that thrive under that. And so there's a lot of different ways to approach coaching with kids.
What is your personal